They are the closest thing to pure evil ever encountered.
Telsia here.
They are beyond redemption,
Keep me posted.
beyond reason in their collective state. They are the Borg. Welcome to Housecoat Podcasting, everyone. I am Takeshi Yamato, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer. 117 Jorn is not here right now. We are starting without him. If he shows up, he shows up. If he doesn't, he doesn't. Anyway, today we are looking at the greatest foe Starfleet has ever faced. The scariest antagonists ever to show up in Star Trek. As my intro stated, the closest thing Star Trek has to honestly pure evil. The Borg Collective. The first inkling that something was going on was in 2364 when the Enterprise D went to visit. It went to the neutral zone to to investigate the disappearance of Federation colonies along the zone, and they discovered from the Romulans that they were also had colonies vanishing. And at that point, that was all that it was. Just weird disappearances, and no one knew what was going on. Then,
over here.
In 2365,
use your tricorder on
Q,
that control panel.
In one of his little stunts, sent the Enterprise D to System J25, 7,000 light years outside of Federation space. Okay. So, the Enterprise was in System J25. They explored a little bit. Guinan recommending against it. But they did. And while they were exploring the system, they ran into it. 3 by 3 by 3. A giant cube-shaped vessel. And it was revealed, and it locked a tractor beam onto the Enterprise,
Just went down.
and a single individual beamed over to the ship into main engineering.
Let's find Telsia.
This was Starfleet's first encounter with the Borg.
Rumors of them had been circulating for years thanks to, well, the Lorians. The Enterprise B.
Yes.
There's Void.
Yes, the Enterprise. Yes, the Elorians rescued by the Enterprise B during its fateful shakedown cruise.
Monroe to Voyager. The Borg took Chang.
Those,
His signal is
the Elorians,
find him and eliminate
had been wiped out by nearly wiped out by cybernetic monsters.
He's in a maturation chamber.
At the time, no one really believed the stories.
I found a Borg relay node.
But
accessing their computer system.
Good. The Borg
in
took Chang.
2365, those stories were realized. And the Borg were just so unbelievably powerful, able to regenerate and adapt, so that after the first encounter, after the first
Chang is below us,
clash
but the only
of weapons
lift control
fire,
panel is up here.
the
Stay
Enterprise,
here and operate the lift.
Enterprise's weapons
I'll
were
get Chang.
useless, and the damage the cube took regenerated. The Borg were insanely powerful, and Starfleet had the superiors. Starfleet Command needed a change of pants. And so they started thinking of countermeasures. They thought they had time, because even at maximum warp, even at the maximum warp Starfleet had access to, 7,000 light years takes a long time to traverse.
Monroe to Voyager. Beam Chang out.
And what was it you said, Ron? 8 years? 7 years? Yeah. They thought they had time, and while they were accelerating projects, they still thought they had time, but they didn't.
Monroe, there's a force
2366, late December.
The power source is on your level.
The Enterprise D goes to the world of Jore 4 to investigate the loss of all contact with the colony. They thought it was... they didn't know what was going on. And it turned out that the entire colony had been scooped out of the ground. And magnetic resonance signatures confirmed it. The Borg were here.
That knocked out the force field up here.
I'll let you take over.
Okay, Chell. Yes, sir.
Considering the camp kit records,
Ensign Chang is safe. Locate Ensign Murphy and complete your primary objective.
Nice job, Monroe. Let's go find Telsia.
Yes. Only 40 ships were able to muster at Wolf 359, which was the staging ground that they established. And the Enterprise investigated a distress signal from loss of contact of a starship that had contacted an alien vessel that was cube-shaped.
all contact was lost with the USS Lalo.
Yes.
A few hours later,
The Enterprise encountered the cube. Mr. Wolf, send a subspace message to Admiral Henson. We have engaged the Borg. The Borg demanded that Captain Picard surrender himself and transport aboard their vessel. The Enterprise tried to fight back, but with experimental shield modulations and weapons changes. But the Borg adapted quickly. And it was only thanks to the quick thinking of Elizabeth Shelby,
Researching those generators.
who had data randomly adjust the phaser frequencies that allowed them to break out of their out of the Borg tractor beam. They escaped and headed to the Paulson Nebula to hide. Yes. Yes. Picard was captured, assimilated, and the massacre at Wolf 359 happened. The fleet was in ruins, and while Picard was saved, the hopes and dreams of an era of the golden age of exploration had been thoroughly shattered.
Telsia,
Can you disable this force field?
I don't see a way.
I'm retrieving the location of the generators.
Or
Can't be good.
afterwards, the Borg tried to. Afterwards, Starfleet continued its preparations, and then there was Sector 001, set around, I think, yeah. So about 9 years later, the Borg tried again. The Enterprise D had been destroyed 2 years earlier and was replaced by the more advanced Enterprise E. And it was the most advanced starship Starfleet had at the time. But because of Picard's assimilation, he was deemed a wild card that they could not afford to risk. And so the Enterprise was left out. Yes. And they managed to destroy the cube. But a Borg sphere escaped. And tried to go back to 2063.
Thanks, Monroe.
To prevent first contact.
We need to get on the
The Enterprise
Junction
followed.
37. I fed the location to your tricorder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Resistance systems top.
Yeah. Yep. So, Borg, the Enterprise followed and managed to stop their plans again. And that was, for a long time, that was the last we heard of the Borg in the Alpha and Beta quadrants. Meanwhile, in the Delta quadrant, the USS Voyager, having been flung 70,000 light years from home, 10 times the distance that the Enterprise had been flung in 2365, had to pass through Borg space in order to get home. In 2379, with assistance, or maybe 2378, with assistance from a future Janeway, they did, and pretty much destroyed the Borg in the process. And we thought the threat was over. Flash forward to 2401.
The pathogen hadn't completely done the job. Oh, it hurt. It hurt a lot.
But the Borg Queen was still around. And she activated, and she started using a failsafe plan that had been set into motion all the way back with Locutus of Borg. Captain Picard, now an admiral at the time, I don't know too much about Picard seasons 1 or 2, or 3 that much, but I know a bit about 3. But Picard was an admiral, and apparently he was on his second body or something.
Let's just stick to the...
Right. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, they managed to find... the changelings tried to abduct Jack Crusher, the son of Beverly Crusher and Admiral Picard. No one knew why until Deanna Troi took a look in Jack's mind, and what she saw. She saw the Federation's greatest enemy once again. We are the Borg. Bam. Now,
We serve
this
the
was
collective. Relocate to grid.
the events with Deanna seeing the Borg
collective
in
must
Jack's
grow.
mind was
Initiating vessel construction. State objective.
it was something that they couldn't understand. I mean, the Borg assimilation was mostly technological,
Vessel
cybernetic
construction
implants.
complete.
But when they had assimilated Picard
We
into
are the
Locutus,
Borg.
they
We
did
will
something
adapt.
else. They altered his DNA,
Activate all
and it
alcoves.
was only
Vessel
noticed
construction complete. State
in 2401.
objective. State
And
new directive.
the changeling infiltrators,
Relocate.
while trying to get Jack,
Vessel construction
they
complete.
also
We will
altered
adapt.
Starfleet transporter
The
programs
collective must
so
grow.
that this altered DNA
Initiating vessel construction.
went to everyone in the
Vessel
fleet under the age of
construction complete.
25,
We serve the collective.
stealthily assimilating
Vessel construction
all of
complete.
Starfleet's young.
Initiating vessel construction.
You're up.
Activate all alcoves. Vessel construction complete.
Your turn.
Sorry about that.
Vessel construction complete. Vessel construction complete.
I should really...
Vessel construction complete.
Right.
Anyway...
Complete.
At any rate...
Vessel construction complete. Negotiation is
At any rate.
irrelevant.
See,
We serve the collective.
kinda got
We will comply. Negotiation
Starfleet
is
didn't
irrelevant.
realize the
Acknowledged.
danger that was going on.
Why would they? They hadn't heard from the Borg, the collective as a whole, for 20 plus years. Why weren't
Yeah.
they even started including former Borg technology into their ships, and yes, in hindsight, it does seem like a stupid idea.
But they thought that there was no danger.
By your command.
And then the Queen, rather worse for wear, managed to get her hands on Jack.
Negotiation is irrelevant.
I do apologize for this. This needs to be done. It's being dumb.
Ah. Let's see. You didn't change the faction again. It defaulted to Federation.
This is what I get. Anyway, the
Yes.
fleet is networked together and with a proto-collective, for lack of a better term. Well, the younger officers
Activate all alcoves. Proceed to center.
Yeah, they're older, so yeah, the older
Initiating vessel construction.
veterans.
I bring order to chaos.
It was
Vessel
only
construction
thanks to the
complete.
efforts of Picard and the old senior staff of the Enterprise D, who used a
Vessel construction
rebuilt
complete.
Enterprise thanks to
Initiating
Geordi
vessel
LaForge,
construction.
that the collective was finally stopped and Starfleet's youth
Construction
freed.
complete. Initiating vessel construction.
And afterwards, Beverly Crusher came up with
State
I
objective.
managed to remove all the Borg
Vessel
DNA that was in
construction
everyone.
complete.
Now, some
Three.
people, Jorn, for example, would call this bullshit. However, there is a lot of scientific evidence to support whatever they do, as well as literal canological evidence to
Vessel construction complete.
support every single thing.
We wish to improve ourselves.
Yes.
It's hard to go, it's bull, when there's no precedent.
Yeah. Very much so. And with the events of Frontier Day, the Borg are presumably gone again. But
Vessel construction complete. Initiating vessel construction.
yes, the Borg yes.
Of which this one is not a 100% accurate depiction.
Yeah. The accurate one is in Star Trek Online, but we don't have time to get into that.
Vessel construction complete.
The probe is the simplest Borg ship.
Activate all alcoves. Vessel
Well,
construction.
I suppose that is the simplest.
Which actually brings us into something I noticed. You see, Starfleet ships are basically discovered chronologically, starting with, well, it's currently being built. But
Yeah.
it went from Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. It made sense. After all, this is supported by Descent Parts 1 and 2, with a Borg mine layer being designated as Type 03.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware of this because, well, I actually
Vessel construction.
a great deal of this is just supposition, but it's logical.
Yeah. Ron is our lore master. If he can't find it, he will extrapolate it based on what he can find.
Starting with Borg starship designations, at least by Starfleet. As an example, the most famous,
The Type 01 cube. This was the first Borg starship ever encountered. 3 by 3 by 3 kilometers. This cube is massive.
massive, overpowered, extremely redundant, what was Shelby's calculation? 75% or more? Just to take it out?
Yeah.
Vessel construction complete.
So that just shows that these ships are uber durable.
We serve the collective.
Yes, and the cube is based. If a Borg want to assimilate a species, usually they just send one cube.
After all, they're massively overpowered.
And for the most part, until they ran into Starfleet, resistance was futile.
And it's hard to disband. And it's really, really hard
I am
to
the Borg.
say otherwise, because
Vessel construction complete.
species that has run into the Borg prior to Starfleet, they got assimilated. I mean, say what you will about their depictions in Voyager, they are really successful in what they do.
Yeah.
I bring
Honestly,
order
I
to
think
chaos.
the only reason that Starfleet is as successful is as successful against the Borg as they have been is, well, as we've seen a few times, as has been seen around the internet a few times, humans are basically human scientists are all basically Doc Brown
I am
from
the Borg.
Back to the Future.
We are also kind of collectively nuts when we want to survive.
Yeah.
Vessel construction complete.
The Borg can easily adapt to conventional tactics and any form of weapon system that is
Vessel
used.
construction complete.
They
Exception of kinetics for sanity reasons. Nobody uses them.
Yeah. However, they cannot adapt to someone weaponizing a negative space wedgie. Or whatever. And
We will adapt.
that is what
Proceed.
humans can do. They do things that
serve the collective.
most other species find insane or stupid, and it always works.
Vessel construction complete.
We're crazy. Sometimes sanity is a benefit, but sometimes insanity is the best option.
Yeah, and when it comes to facing the Borg, insanity really is your best bet.
Still,
Vessel construction
Yeah.
complete. Activate all alcoves.
by the Federation.
Yes.
Type 0. And I extrapolated this latest data from
I bring order to chaos.
Starship as seen in Descent.
Yeah.
03. Now, logically, if this was the third Borg ship ever seen, what was the
State
second?
objective.
Well, the first.
The first was the cube.
What was the second? A smaller vessel.
Negotiation is irrelevant.
Alright, this
This was presumably seen in
yes, with Hugh.
Yes. Now, we never saw the ship, but it is fairly easy to know. This is the scout cube. This is the ship we saw. They detected. It's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
And of course,
We
the
are the
first
Borg. Vessel construction complete.
never crushing was the goddamn solar flare to kill the damn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Carter. Samantha Carter used a goddamn supernova to kill a fleet of.
Gold warships.
Really? Who was the first person to do that?
Beverly Bleeping Crusher.
That makes this the type 3.
Type 4 is the sphere, as seen in First Contact.
We do not know what the Type 5 is. However, we presume it is the probe, and
We will adapt.
Here.
We are the Borg.
Yes.
By your command.
Yes.
We wish to improve ourselves.
The diamond, or the octahedron. The type. Yes.
Now, some of these ships are only seen in Star Trek Armada.
Vessel construction complete. We will adapt. Initiating vessel construction. Relocate to grid.
And
Yeah.
it's currently being constructed.
The collective must grow.
Some of the Armada
We are the Borg.
Yeah.
The assemblator obviously assembles things.
Yes. The Borg. Standard Borg armaments include plasma weaponry, cutting beams, and the most powerful tractor beam known to existence. Not only does it lock onto a target and hold it in place, it drains your shields. At least it did in the J25 and
Vessel
2366 encounters.
Presume it does all the time.
Yes.
Activate all alcoves.
And there we have it. The Type 01B.
The tactical cube. People take a dump on this thing for no good reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
But technically it wasn't Voyager. Voyager fought it. The three of their people.
exactly how. And one, Voyager distracted the damn thing. Janeway and an away team beamed aboard, got semi-assimilated.
Yes, got semi-assimilated. Step 2, a
A renegade sphere, under the control of renegade drones, goes to assist Voyager, also disrupting Unimatrix Zero, but that is another story entirely.
Yes. Step 3, the Borg Queen, being a sore loser, self-destructs the tactical cube. As I said,
Relocate.
sore loser.
State objective. Proceed.
Realistically, there was no winning. They had to sabotage it from within to do any real damage.
And even then, it was only because the Borg
Vessel
Queen was.
construction complete.
It was only because the Borg Queen was being a sore loser regarding the whole
State new
Unimatrix Zero
directive.
thing that caused the tactical cube, to self-destruct. Anyway,
We will adapt.
you might be seeing that pyramid and wondering what that is. That is another Armada ship.
Proceed to sector.
I am the Borg.
Relocate.
That thing on the side there. The little
We
pyramid.
wish to improve ourselves.
In Armada 2, this was the Borg colony ship. Unlike other factions, where the colony ship was a civilian vessel without weapons and disappeared when you established a colony, this thing had a massive beam that could tear through shields and deplete the officer population of a planet before
State objective.
turning over and using a different type of beam to send down drones, thus basically assimilating the planet. So, There are other designs, but there's just, as we said, the Borg had thousands of ships, tens of thousands. And even after the destruction of the Queen again, all of those ships are still floating out there somewhere. All it takes is one overeager salvage crew plugging in something they shouldn't, and the Borg will return again. Now, we tried doing this vid once before, and Jorn was there as well, but I think this time we're going to go into a topic that we didn't really cover in that last go-round. And something I only brought up in a comment, first in a comment on the Wolf 359 breakdown, and then more recently in one of our playthroughs of Halo Wars, playthrough vids of Halo Wars. The destruction of Queen's new cube, much bigger than normal cubes and approaching fusion cube territory. Fusion cubes are another Armada thing. That explosion was very energetic and caused by a chain reaction when the Enterprise D blew up the beacon that was transmitting the signal that was controlling all of the young Starfleet officers. And this would cause power surges and malfunctions, not just all the explosions going on, but all sorts of energy surges. All it would take is just the right combination of energy surges and malfunctions to tear open a small hole in the space-time continuum and send a piece of debris elsewhere, elsewhere, to some other universe, unprepared for the Borg. A universe where the Borg are very clearly an out-of-context problem. And, well, I'm thinking what I would like to do is go over a few of those possible options as to where some of that debris might end up, and where the salvage crews, not knowing what was going on, would start up a new collective. One of the options commonly used in a crossover with Star Trek is, well, the other big sci-fi thing of the 70s, Star Wars. And they would have some of the lowest odds because they still use energy weapons. And unlike Star Trek, where you can alter the frequencies of your weapons fire to get around the Borg adaptation, I don't think that Star Wars laser weapons can be modulated. Yeah. So, as soon as the first ship starts getting assimilated, it only starts to snowball. And regardless of the era, the Star Wars galaxy would most likely be doomed. I have no idea how Borg nanotechnology would interact with Force, but At best, that might only slow them down. Even just in assimilating a force sensitive. And once they had assimilated a force sensitive, that force sensitive's biological and technological distinctiveness would be added to the collective. Meaning the Borg would be able to utilize its weapons. To utilize the abilities of the Force. Next up is another one of the popular ones, Mass Effect. Mass Effect might have better luck because they mostly use physical projectile weapons, which the Borg cannot assimilate. I cannot adapt to. But again, the first overeager salvage team, possibly Solarians, possibly Batarians, they salvage the wreck. Someone plugs in something, nanotube, nanoprobes get into one of the salvagers, and we have a collective is forming again. The only advantage the Mass Effect people would have would be that they use projectile weapons. But energy weapons on their own are an out of context problem. And then we get into the Reapers themselves. The Reapers are like the opposite of the Borg. The Borg are a hive mind consciousness, but the individual drones still retain their physical shape. The Reapers break down the essence of target species to make their own, to make more Reapers, but there is only one AI driving each Reaper. Mass Effect is probably just as bone to Star Wars, just slightly different.
It'll just take a different course. Maybe they will find a way to contain them for a short time. Maybe they will actually find a solution. Maybe they'll just get screwed. It depends on how interesting you want to make it.
Yes. And then we get to Warhammer 40k, which might have which honestly, this is the most interesting option for like a crossover of this nature. 2 reasons. 1, Warhammer 40k consistently screws with the laws of physics, and I have no idea how the Borg would be able to handle that. And 2, there is a group in Warhammer 40k which, I don't know, they might actually find themselves embracing assimilation as a gift of the Omnissiah. Obviously, you know who I'm talking about now. At least Ron does.
Yeah, Mac.
Yeah. Am I wrong? Am I wrong about this?
Not really. It's complicated.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, the toaster worshipping Adeptus Mechanicus, they might just they might just consider the Borg to be gods.
Or something close. It's complicated.
Yeah.
Again, it all depends on what you do. How they get there. Do they assimilate Necrons and replicate Blackstone's warp-repelling abilities? Do they end up near the Eye of Terror or something? It is very iffy, but very interesting at the same time.
Yeah.
Hell, they could end up on Holy Terra, and oh boy, that's instantaneous new collective right there.
Yeah. Or or with the piece of debris, an AdMech ship comes to salvage it. It comes across the debris and salvages it because the AdMech is new tech. Gimme.
It's a fascinating concept, which is why the Borg are so popular beyond their monolithic nature.
Yeah. They are an interesting, if terrifying, foe.
And that's why we love them.
Yeah.
Because
Voy-
we
yeah.
love horror to some degree. We like being scared.
Yes. Voyager neutered some of that terror aspects, but Picard season 3 brought them back with a vengeance.
And that brings up the problem. Everyone wants to believe the Borg are just gone.
But we know better.
They are merely sleeping.
Yes. Sleeping, dormant,
Waiting for
wait,
someone to pull a USCSS Nostromo or a Wayland Yutani or basically anything alien.
and start the cycle all over again. In fact, that's another parallel with Mass Effect. The thing with the Reapers were operating on a 50,000 year cycle, but they were usually the ones to initiate it. The Borg, the Borg were, and the the Reapers, the Reaper cycle is all about absorbing about taking over obliterating all the races of the galaxy at the time and taking their essence into forming a new Reaper representing that race. But the Borg cycle is one of expansion and extinction. The Borg expand, someone manages to deal with them in some fashion, and they seem dormant. They seem to be gone. Only for someone to pull an aliens and wake them up. No one knows when it will be.
This
No
is
one
also
knows.
supported by Guinan's statement of how they evolved over thousands of centuries.
Yeah.
You gotta love it when things make sense.
Yes. And so the Borg, we do not know when the Borg will return, though if Star Trek Online is any indication, it will only be 8 years.
Which I hope it is, because getting rid of the Borg, that would not seem to be a popular option. They're too popular. They're too beloved. Because we love being scared.
Yeah. And fanfiction writers, feel free to use my idea as a starting point. Bring a piece of Borg debris into whatever universe you want. Have someone have someone poke around where they're not supposed to. Have them plug in something that shouldn't be plugged in.
Have a fun time. Be reasonable about it, but have fun.
Yeah. And speaking of 40K, that will be our next series of videos. Because just as we reviewed the games of Resident Evil, we are also going to review every single game in the 41st millennium.
Well, most of them. I haven't played some of them yet.
Yeah, mainly the ones that Ron has played, but we are still going to review all of those.
Bye.